Hello everyone, it's Andy at Kinder Kitchens again. So today's design video, it's a kitchen that we finished a few months ago, and I'm just going to run through the design with you. And today's sort of topic, if you will, for the design video, we're gonna do the whole design. I've already done the design, and I've kind of cleared it all out. And we're gonna basically drag it all back in again today because I want to talk through the design. And if I was doing it completely from scratch, it would take too long for a video. So basically, you'll see in a minute when I chuck you over to my screen what I mean by that. And we're going to bring the design in. I'll talk about the whole design as we go through it. It's a fairly simple design, but we're going to focus on the actual technical detail, which is what a lot of this kind of series will about actually getting the details and the measurements accurate with the kitchen. And today we're going to focus on corner units, and we're going to talk a little bit about corner units. So that's going to take a tiny bit of time. Now this particular design has got a dog bed integrated into one of the corners basically, so I'll show you that in a bit. But it's standard size unit, so it's a regular base units, and it's regular wall units, so 720 high wall units, which is the medium size. There's no tall housings in this anyway, so that won't be relevant. But as we start to put the units in, we're going to talk about the corner units specifically as we go through this. And the reason for that is there's a range oven in this, and we need to center the range oven. And as I'll show you as we start to go through, we need to just make sure that we do that properly, depending on the type of corner units that we're going to use. So I'll throw you over to my screen now. Hopefully you can now see what I can see. So I'll have a quick look at the room first of all, and you can see basically where my cursor is now. We've got a small wall there, then the big back wall at 4670. We're using Articad, by the way, for this design, which is kitchen specific design software. 540 for the small wall there, external window, another small wall, just over a metre wall. That's an external door to outside and to the back. Small wall, 675, back round, 890 wall, an internal door to the dining room, and then a small wall brings us back to that back wall. So I'll just zoom back out again, and then you can actually see the design. You can see the entire design laid out there, and we're going to basically bring that lot back in, so you can see that I've already done it. I'm just going to separate that bit a little bit, and we're going to focus on just kind of this back run across here. So the corner unit that belongs in there is that one to this design. Now that's an L-shaped corner. Let's just make another one. Let's find another corner unit. So this is what we call it, a blind corner unit. So I'll just bring that into the design, and that would go there. So what's the difference between there's basically two types of corner: an L-shaped corner unit and then a blind corner unit, which is this one here. Now you may have seen diagonal corner units, and you may have seen sort of, you know, the convex curved doors as well in corner units. And I'm not going to bring either one of those units up, simply because basically they're still L-shaped cornered units, as in they both go around the corner and go down the wall further than the depth of the worktop on both walls, whereas this unit does not. So whether this unit was an L, like you can see on here, or whether it was a diagonal, or whether it was a convex curve, it would still extend down both walls by 900 on that side and then 900 on this side. Now if it had a convex door inside there, it would be a fixed size, and that would be somewhere around about 900. If it had a diagonal door, that would also be a fixed size. Now you could increase the door size on a diagonal to make it bigger, but it takes a lot of working out, and a lot of companies don't necessarily offer that. They will offer a diagonal base, but it will be probably worked out their unit to a fixed door size. But either way, as I said, whichever one you're using doesn't really matter. But the L-shaped unit, you can change the door size quite easily on that. So it's the easiest one to design as a bespoke unit. So for example, this particular unit has got is 923 there, as you can see. So from that corner it extends out 923 millimeters, and this door that's on here where my mouse is now will be a 350 door, so a 347 door. Now if you made that into a 400 door and it increased by 50 mil, the 923 would increase by 50 mil. Now the doors overlap each other, as we'll see when we look at the render in a second. So if we increase or decrease the door on this side, the 995 would change respectively as well. So we do have quite a lot of scope in terms of what we can do. We can also overlap the doors in a different direction, which is a little bit complicated, but we do have quite a lot of scope to design a unit like that, so it can be a different size going in both directions. So that's an L-shaped, which is the most versatile. This is a blind corner unit. So I'm going to stick that in there, and I'm just going to grab another unit so we can have a look at kind of the difference basically. So if I just grab this 600 unit and put that there, the corner unit would fit there. You can see where the door opens on that corner unit. So I couldn't go sliding that back to there, or it would just fit there. But this dark line that you can see in front of this base unit is the edge of the worktop. And then the small dotted line that you can see at the back of that, just there, is the front edge of the cabinet. So that's kind of how we look at it on this particular CAD software. And you can see the same lines on the corner unit just there. So we need a little gap between those to fit a filler in. So normally we would leave a little gap there, somewhere around 40 mil or something like that. And also when we put that in place, like I say, it couldn't go further back to there because we can see that the door is now behind this corner. So when the door swings open, it'll bump into that unit basically. So that needs to stay out at the minimum there. And we can see that where the hinge will be, where the cross is, it's about flush with the worktop. So the worktop overhangs this door, remember, so that would open there. So if you were to have a blind corner unit like that, there's all sorts of different pull-out devices that you can put in there, sorts of fly moons and baskets that move across, and all sorts of different stuff. If you were to have the L-shaped unit, there are sort of carousels, you know, like a bit like a kind of a round thing with a bird's beak sort of shape in it. There are carousels that you can put into them, but actually the accessibility, as long as the doors are kept to a reasonable size, as in I think a minimum of 350 for both doors, the accessibility without a pull-out is better, and of course that means more storage. So just bear that in mind. This one will give more storage without having a mechanical device in. This one really needs a mechanical device because all this area there, you've got an awkward reach around a corner. So it kind of needs a mechanical device, and whatever the mechanical device will be, and I do have my own personal favourite that I think is the most reliable and the most useful, but they all offer accessibility over overall storage. So yes, it's easier to get to your stuff, but you lose storage altogether. So that's the difference in storage. And why would we use one over the other? Well, a lot of clients have had one in the past and now they want the other. That happens quite a lot. So I had one of the blind corner types. I want an L shape this time. Or I've had both, which is quite common in a kitchen. We'll find out why later. But if you've got a kitchen that goes around two corners, you'll often find that you had one of each. And there's a good reason for that. Like I say, we'll look at that in a minute. But there are other factors of why you would choose one over the other. First of all, this one, the blind corner, offers a lot more scope for just where the unit sits. So this unit could sit here, or as I start to drag it to the left now, it could go as far as there. So there could be a 77 mil gap, as we can see kind of there at the back of this unit, because you could slide this out. It just means that the kind of L-shaped filler that fills in the gap between them just gets a little bit bigger, and that's okay. It can go to 70 mil, 80 mil even, you know, depending on the style of door. With handleless style doors, you know, with a J groove at the top, they have fixed corner posters, which restricts it a little bit, but you've got a lot more scope about moving that way. You can move it. With this unit, it can only stay right there. Unless you're going to start dragging that off, you'll have to drag every other unit off next to it, and you'll end up with a deeper worktop. So there's a little bit of scope, but it's not ideal. So we get a lot more movement with the blind one than we do with the L-shaped corner. There's another factor as well. Let's suppose when we were putting that there and we were putting a fixed object here. So this is the sink base, and this room wasn't as big as it's going to be. And then we had a dishwasher here. I'll just grab a dishwasher, because that is one. In fact, it's not a dishwasher, but we'll stick it in anyway. Just grab that from there. Let's suppose that was a dishwasher, but at the other end of the dishwasher was the wall, so there's no more room. Well, we couldn't put an L-shaped in the corner then, because it extends too far down, so then the sink base would have to come to here, and the dishwasher would have to come to there, and it wouldn't fit, because the blind corner only extends down one wall. It doesn't extend down this wall. And of course this unit can be reversed. You would just you basically just order a unit and put the blank on the other side and have the door on the other side, so that could be coming down this wall and not extending down that wall. So that's basically the difference between the two types of unit. Now once we put that unit in place, I'm just going to shift that one for a minute and just stick that over there, because this is the one that actually belongs in this design, and we can see it's a 923 by 995, so that fits on two different sized doors, and which will give it a reasonable size opening. So I'm just going to leave that there for a second, and we'll just zoom back out and look at the rest of the design, because we've got a range oven to fit into this design. Let's suppose our range oven goes there. And we'll also notice, before we go any further, this kitchen layout goes around two corners, because we can see here that this furniture comes around the other side as well. So it's going to extend down this wall, the 1205 wall. It's going to extend down there, both on the base units and on the wall units, because these units here with the red cross on, where my cursor is now, they're wall units. The ones below are the base units, and the ones that are in red are the wall units. Now these wall units here, the wall units don't go round this corner, they just run up to the edge because there's a window there, but at the other end they do go round the corner. Now the corner unit, I'm just going to grab the corner wall unit and place that in place just there, and that again, you can't really use blind corners. So that unit that we've just talked about before, the blind corner unit, that could be done as a wall unit. It is possible to make one, but that kind of space that you have to reach round on the other side is really, really tough to get to. The unit's only 300 deep anyway. This is 600 deep because it's a base unit, but if it was a wall unit, it'd only be 300 deep. And also where the hinge fixes onto the middle of the unit, it needs like an upright section that's 70mm deep. It really leaves very little room to get round the corner. So blind corner wall units are really to be avoided. There are last ditch things. Things need to be getting really, really tricky if you're putting something like that in. I'm not saying they never get used. I'm saying it has to be unavoidable. So what does that leave you for options for a corner wall unit? Well, it leaves you diagonal, which is what we're looking at there, and it also leaves you an L-shaped. So in other words, you could make a miniaturized version of an L-shaped wall unit. Let's just find one in the program somewhere. There we go. Let's just pop that on, and we'll just assume that those sizes are right. So basically we've got that type of unit, an L-shaped unit, which we could just stick our wall units on either side and carry on, and that brings us round the corner, and it would be in essence the same as that, and it works okay. It's fine. Or we've got the diagonal, and I almost always use diagonals unless the clients had one in the past and they specifically don't want one again. But the diagonal unit, as you can see, if I just place that over the top of it, it does offer a lot more storage in this area, but it doesn't protrude out it uncomfortably. So if you were stood where my mouse is now, that would look and feel absolutely fine. It doesn't look like it reaches over the corner too far. Let's stick the L-shaped base underneath it so we can get some perspective on that. But you would be stood somewhere here. So for the extra storage, you don't feel like it's coming into your kitchen too far. It's not too close to your face, basically. And it works really, really well. They're 600 by 600. They're a little bit awkward to hang on the wall because it's quite a big, heavy unit for the fitter's perspective. But it's by far, in my opinion, the best way to do a corner in a wall. Just a quick point on corner wall units. This is me personally, and I'm sure there are designers out there that disagree. I don't think you should go round a corner on a wall unless you're going to carry on with some more units afterwards. Now you see a lot of designs, you see a lot of kitchens that I go and look at, and there's an L-shaped corner wall at the end of a run. So in other words, let's just move our units out of the way. So you'll go into someone's house and see that. In other words, the wall units are running over from where the oven is. They go into the corner, they go round the corner, but then there isn't another unit there. Now, that's a bit of a no-no in design, because a corner wall is, as it implies, to go round a corner. And it looks like you're getting some extra storage, and you probably are. But it doesn't look as clean and as nice as just having your wall units just go to the end, like that. It looks like if I put that on there, I'm gaining extra storage. And I would be, that area there where the mouse is now, I would be gaining a little bit of extra storage, but it just doesn't look right unless it carries on. That's just my personal opinion. I'm sure other people disagree, but I think it's a much neater, cleaner look just to have your wall unit, you know, just run your run to the end. However, in this design, we are going around the corner, because the base units are going around the corner, so we can go around the corner with the walls. So I'm going to stick my corner unit in there, and I'm going to put my L-shaped corner back over there, and I'm going to show you something. Now, as we start to build up this design, we've got a base unit. Our corner unit on this side is a fixed size. As far as this wall's concerned, that measurement is 923. So it starts at the wall and it comes off to the edge of the cabinet is 923. And this unit is 600 by 600. I know what you're thinking, that says 620 then. There's a good reason for that, and I'll tell you what it is in a second. And the gap between those has to work out to the centre of the hob. Now, I'll show you what I mean when we start building the rest of the design up. But you'll see as we build this up that those measurements need to work out accurately. So let's start bringing the rest of the design in, and I'm just going to grab that's a piece of upstand, so I'm just going to grab that. So the next unit in this is a drawer pack, and that's going to go there, and we can see by the front of that there's 3 drawers in it, and I can tell you that's 1 cutlery drawer and 2 pan drawers. And in this case there's lots of different configurations for your drawer front sizes. And then we're going to put an end panel in, which is 25mm. The actual end panels are 20mm plus 5mm overhang before it gets to the oven. That's our oven. We're going to stick that next to the end panel. That's the extractor. We're going to stick that exactly over the top of the, and that is a splashback, which looks like that. I'm going to stick that above the oven. Onto the other side of the oven, another end panel. We always have end panels at the end of ovens. You don't have to have an end panel at the end of your run up to a freestanding appliance, but it kind of looks a bit neater if you do, and definitely if you're having a freestanding oven, I would recommend it, if for no other reason than it looking much neater. Another drawer pack, so that's 4 175 fronts. It's quite popular to have two different fronts, and it's very practical as well, because a standard sort of 3 drawer pack is a 140 drawer pack drawer set at the front, and then 2 pan drawers below it. And the 140 is great for knives and forks and general cutlery, but it does struggle for kind of mashers and big items, big mashers and whisks and stuff like that that are a little bit bigger. You will struggle to get them in the top, especially, not in this case, but especially if you're putting it below an induction hob, because you've got a quartz worktop and an induction hob, that you'll find the hob sticks through the top kind of quite a long way in some cases. Or the sort of neff hobs, it stuck through there sort of 20mm, so it does protrude into your drawer space a little bit, and it'll catch on any big items that you put in your top tray. So that 4 175s basically is 4 drawer fronts the same size, and the top drawer of that is really, really good for sort of mashers and big cutlery items, and of course the rest of them for tea towels and chargers or whatever. So that's our drawer pack. Fridge and freezer, both integrated, so they're both banged on 600 to take a 600 door. And then in this particular case, we're actually, what we're doing is here. So what I've just grabbed there is an end panel. So we're going to stick an end panel on the side of the dishwasher. I'm just going to move the wall unit out of the way a second so you can have a better look at that. So we've got our 400 drawer pack, 600 freezer, 600 integrated fridge, they're both integrated. Then we've got a panel, so that's closed off with a panel now. And then this, just pull that out. There's two different things there. That is a piece of worktop, and we can see from that the height off the ground is 870, so that's the worktop for the top. And that is a worktop for on the floor. So I'm going to slide that into there. So we can just imagine, in fact, we won't imagine, let's have a look, let's show you. Let's just render a quick image up. It's on low quality to do it quickly, but so you can have a quick look at what we've done so far. So you can see our oven there, splashback and extractor. You can see our drawer pack, you can see our fridge and freezer. And then we've closed it off with an end panel that we can see kind of just there. And then we've placed a piece of oak worktop. So this job's, it's a solid wood door in antique red, and it's a solid oak worktop as well. Now we've put a piece of oak worktop onto the floor. Let's go back to our plan. Our other piece of worktop is going to fit directly above it, and that's worktop at worktop height. We're then going to take that item there. No, we're not, sorry. I'm going to take that item there. Orientate it the right way. And that's a panel. It's a panel that I've made. It's just kind of a bespoke, you can see it says show back there, so it's like a back panel. It's got a piece of worktop on it, as you can see. Let's just stick that there. I don't want it to go to the wall actually, so what we'll do is we'll just unclick snap to walls, and that stops the snap zone pulling it into place. I'll be just position it there because I want it just off the wall. And then we've got another base end panel which we're just going to pop on the end, and then we'll have another quick look. And this client, and I have been asked for this a few times, it just wanted to create a space for a dog bed basically at the end, because they've got a nice little dog, and when they're in the kitchen cooking and that, dog likes to come with them. They don't necessarily want it on the floor. There's no room for a dog bed somewhere else. So basically they've sacrificed their corner unit in order to create space there to put a nice dog bed in. I'll tell you a bit more about it when you look at the actual pictures of the kitchen finish, which I'll show you in a bit. But that's how we're forming it basically. So we've put an end panel against the end of the run, which is that panel there, and then we've lined the walls with end panel. So you know, when you look down there, you can't see the wall, you can see end panel. You've got an end panel on the end, and then we've put this piece of oak in the bottom. When I fitted this kitchen, we actually cut this end panel that's on the end, we actually cut it a bit shorter and then put an angle on the worktop, and it does look nicer like that, and it opens it up a little bit as well. I'll show you that one when we get to when you look at the pictures in a bit. So let's go back to our plan. So that's our dog bed area done. And now you can see that the way we've spaced it out, there's no, if I go back to the extractor, which is what you're looking at there, there's no negotiation on the centre for the extractor. Now when we bring our wall units in, I'll just grab one there, let's assume that's a wall unit on one side, and that is the wall unit for the other side. I'm going to put them both there. There's no negotiation on the distance between the edge of the extractor and the wall. So in this case, it's the 1548 measurement. And from this side of the extractor, which is there, to that wall, it's 2222, so 2222 millimeters. And there's no way to change that figure. So in other words, once we start putting our wall units in, we're going to have to work around those measurements, because we can't move the extractor without moving the oven, and we can't move the oven because this was a fixed size. So once that's in place, and the drawer pack's in place, and then the panel's in place, and then the oven's in place, we're stuck to that centre. We can't move it. And the reason we can't move it is because we used an L-shaped unit. If we'd have used our other unit, as I said before, and that was in that place, it would slide up and down a little bit, which would push the drawer pack, oven, drawer pack, fridge and freezer all up a little bit. But we could make that a little bit shallower to absorb that movement. But we didn't in this case. We didn't use that. We used an L-shaped. So let's work out now what impact that now has on the wall units in terms of corner. So once I put the corner wall in place, now usually you'll find a lot of the time when you're doing, especially if you're buying sort of really standard stuff from B&Q or somewhere like Howden's or something like that, who can't create bespoke units for you, that would be 600 by 600, and I'll just make it 600 by 600 actually. Let's just change those dimensions as if we were using a standard unit. So 600 by 600, and that'll have a 400 door on. So let's stick that there, and then we're going to start piling the units that we've got in there. So before we start that, just a quick word of how close we go to the extractor with our wall unit, and the answer to that is not too close if we can help it. Now I'm just going to F9 that, and we'll make a little measuring stick, and that measuring stick's going to be 100 mil, and I'm going to position that measure right next to the extractor there, because I don't want my wall unit to be too close to the kind of steam and heat that's coming off the top of the oven. I'm going to cover integrated or non-integrated extractors in another video, but if you were to have an integrated extractor, I know that you would have furniture basically directly over their heat. With more and more induction hobs being the norm these days, that's good news. But if you've not got if you've not got an integrated extractor, in other words a built-in extractor, and it's a freestanding extractor that looks like that type of extractor, which usually goes with range ovens. My personal opinion is that's the nicest type of extractor. Personally, I'm not a fan of integrated extractors, but we would see basically that is how we do it. We stop the wall unit before we actually run into the extractor, and usually I aim for a kind of 100 mil gap there. Now there's no end panel on that unit yet, but generally speaking you aim for 100 mil gap there. It's not unusual for a lot of people who've got kitchens, they're not using their extractor at the moment, either because they've never cleaned the filter out so they don't think it works, it's too noisy. When it was fitted, the hole that runs the vent outside wasn't put in big enough, because when it comes to noise and extractors, there's one simple rule: the bigger the hole, the quieter the extractor, basically, because most of the noise comes from the buffering sound of air being pushed down the pipe. So it's really on a kitchen like this that's going straight through the wall at the back of the extractor, it's a straight elbow and straight through as wide as you possibly can. If you're or at least as the minimum, at least as wide as the top of the extractor hole. Now, a lot of the time you'll get a reducing ring with the extractor, which brings it down. You don't have to use it. It'll only make it more noisy. So my personal opinion is, try to keep a big as vent as going through as sound. But a lot of people don't use their extractors because that wasn't done, or like I say, the filters are really dirty and they never bother changing them. And if you're not using your extractor, you'll trap all the hot air and steam in this area. Now, if you leave a gap between, at least it's got somewhere to go up there, rather than going into your furniture and getting your wood really wet and start getting into your doors and stuff like that. So pretty much as a rule of thumb, I absolutely recommend 100 mil gap between the edge of the extractor and the wall unit. Like I say, that's not actually got an end panel on yet, so that will go down 80 mil, but that's okay, 80 is fine. So we're not running right up to the extractor. So we'll do the right hand side first, and I'm going to stick in our filler first of all, which I know is the right size because I've already decided this. Then we're going to put in our wall unit, which was 500. Then we're going to put in our 900 unit, and we can see that worked out absolutely fine. It's left us 100 mil. Now, if our corner unit had been a different size, if we'd have made it 50 mil bigger, then we would simply have pushed the oven over to the left by 50 mil, which means that we'd just have to increase this by 50 mil. So the 500 would have gone to a 550, if that's possible. Now, if we'd have increased the 900 to a 50 mil, then obviously that would have left us with 950, which isn't a standard door size for two doors. You can put one size door on one side and one size door on the other side. It sounds a bit mad, but it actually works. But that's not worked out in this case anyway. And you'll notice that little thing there, in case you're wondering if it didn't work out, that's a scribe or a filler that goes between the wall unit and the wall. Now that has to be in there because your wall's never flat. It doesn't look right putting your cabinet right up against the wall anyway, so there's always a filler in there, and there absolutely should be a filler in there, and it looks absolutely fine. It looks neat and well designed, and it should be somewhere around 45mm. It doesn't matter if it's any bigger or it's a bit smaller, but 45-50mm, somewhere around there, looks about right. So that's fitted into there. So now we go to the other side and we can replicate on the other side, because the distance between the extractor and the unit needs to be the same on both sides, obviously, otherwise it'll look wrong. So we're going to put our 100mm filler in there, stick our unit in, and then take the filler back out again, and that just helps us get it just so on, just centralized. And then I'm just going to remove our corner, L-shaped corner, for a second and put our next unit in, which is a 600 unit. And before we go any further, I'm just going to talk a little bit about 600 wall units. In an ideal scenario, and some, you know, kitchen design is always about compromise, because things just never quite work out all the time. Everything changes in the size of the design, so there's always compromise. Whatever you're doing is always compromise. It's what compromise works best for you. But 600 units on a wall are generally speaking to be avoided, and the reason for that is because when you open the door, you know, say that base unit there, or fridge that it is, if you actually stand in your own kitchen now and open a 600 door, you kind of step out the way and you open it and you bend down to go in there, and it works. But if you have a 600 door on your wall unit, when you come to open it, you kind of have to step away from your worktop so it doesn't kind of hit you in the face, and then come back again and walk back inside the door and then get the stuff out there. Sounds a bit hard to explain, but if you try it on your own units, you'll see what I mean. So generally speaking, 600 doors are to be avoided. It's okay in a corner. It works better in a corner because, let's suppose now I put that unit there and it was hinged the other way. You'd be stood here anyway, so you don't have to move out the door. So if you're going to do it, it kind of works better in a corner, and in this case it kind of is in a corner because you kind of be stood there anyway. So we're kind of getting away with it, and you haven't really got much choice. The only choice would be to increase the size of this unit, which throws an imbalance out then between either side of the extractor door sizes, to get that to a 500. And in my opinion, it would be better to leave it as it is. For the compromise of a 600 door, leave the two 900s the same size. So we've put our corner base in, we've come all the way to the end, we've set the centre of the extractor when we did that, we've put our wall units into the right hand side, we're putting our wall units into the left hand side, and now we're going to come to the end and we're going to measure from the corner to the edge of the last wall unit that we put in, and I can see that that's 622, and we know that a 6x6 unit isn't going to fit, because when I put it in there, it's left that gap in there, 22mm. And that in essence is the problem of using fixed corner units, is you will always run into that problem. Now you could just say, oh, I'll just grab that unit, I'll slide that one along, I'll slide that one along, problem solved. But now the gap between the extractor and the wall units is different. You might say, I'll stick that back there and I'll stick that back there, but then I'll move this one back, so I'll get rid of the 45, or I'll change the 500 to a 450, and we'll change it like that. Let's try it. So let's put our 100mm filler back in there, put our 900, get it in the right place, we'll get that there. In fact, sorry, we'll move that over to the corner, and we'll move our 900 to there, and that then leaves us with a gap of 125 between the extractor and the wall unit. That's okay, it's not too big or anything, it's still got to have a panel on anyway, but it does need to be on the same on the other side. So one option is 122, we said, is to make our gap on the other side 122 as well. So let's do that, then put our 900 in, then we'll put our 500 in, and our filler has gone down to 26. So that would work. 26 is fine. It's a little bit small for a filler, but it's fine. It'll work. You just, when you go back to do your second site visit, when, I do the project management here, so I would be going back with this design. I'd be checking all those wall dimensions and making sure this kitchen's actually going to fit. And if I saw that on the design, if Vicky had give me this design and I saw that, and straight away I would recognise that it's quite a small filler that. So I'd nearly need to nail that measurement and make sure that is actually going to fit in there, because you can soon lose 26 mil between a slight mismeasure, some plastering work that's going to be taking place. So I'd definitely be checking that on the way back. Or we could simply take that 500, turn that into a 450, reduce its size a little bit, stick it back, and now we've got a 76 mil filler, which is a little bit on the big side. Again, it's not a problem. If you saw it in your kitchen, would you notice it? Probably not. I would notice a filler that size, but probably most clients don't. So either one would work. After I'd been back to the site visit, I would check that. And if you've stuck to standard wall sizes, if you bought your kitchen, from one of the big kitchen sellers, Wicks and B&Q and places like that, Wren, they do have standard sizes and standard doors, and you can't really deviate from that much. So it wouldn't be the end of the world either way. Like I say, double check it, make sure that the 22 would fit, or just go for a slightly bigger filler. That would work either way. What we actually did, I'll just change that back to a 500. We'll stick that back in there. We'll stick our filler back in, and this is kind of a different option. Let's just bring it all back down to size. So put our filler back in there for 100, move that over, stick our 48 mil filler back in, which is pretty close to what we really want. Put that back there, stick our 900 unit in, drag our 500 unit over, get rid of that. I'm going to put the wall panels back in, which is these things just here. Oh, there's one there, there's one there. There's another one there. So what we actually did was, now what you can do with this unit is, assuming that you're making your units from scratch, which we do, and if you've gone to an independent supplier, they'll almost certainly be doing the same. I've done lots of videos on why you should buy your kitchen from independent suppliers in the past. Wherever it is in the world that you live, your independent supplier will give you a better kitchen, not much more money. So that is definitely the way forward, and they will be making their units from scratch almost certainly. So they've got a bit of scope just to change things a little bit. And the way that we changed this a little bit was, if you imagine that unit going there, you can see by that it's 22 mil short. So when we made this unit, we simply made it a little bit deeper on one side. And when I say that, I'm just going to change that to 622. So the depth on that side is actually that. Now, that won't change the angle of the door, and it won't change the size of the door, because all you've actually done is, if you imagine where the green block kind of ends there, if you imagine that was the back of the unit down the back, we've not changed the unit in terms of changing the angle of the unit. We've simply extended the tails on one side. So this kind of bit between where the green is and where the back line is, we've just extended that edge. So this gable has gone from 300, because obviously that's 300, it's 300 there, and it's 300 there, because the unit that goes on either side is 300, and that needs to match. And if that was on that side, that would be 300. Now you can see when I put that there, that actually the gable's got deeper, and there's a little step there. So that means that once I've done that, I've then got to make this unit a little bit deeper as well. So the angle stays the same, which means the door size stays the same, which means you can still use a standard sized door. You've just made the unit a little bit deeper next to it, and you've just extended the depth of one side of that. So let's stick that back. We can stick our corner unit back in now. And then somewhere we should have a 450 unit, and we can see kind of in that area that the 450 unit is flush to the front edge, because if I just double click on that, we can see that there the depth is 320. Should be 322, shouldn't it? Just to match that. So we can stick that back there. And that's our design complete. That was rubbish, that was rubbish. Get rid of all that. That's our end panel. That can go on the side of the wall unit. Delete that. Delete that. Have a look at our design. We'll just stick our upstands in. So find out where they went. That was the upstand for that. And I'll just show you what that's like. Basically, this is just the upstand. Actually, this kitchen ended up getting tiled because the customer chose tiles actually in the end. But you can see the upstand on this bit there. We can see where our dog bed is, and we can just see the upstand, which is normal for oak tops and quartz tops. Usually, a lot of people have a splashback either in quartz or glass or stainless or something, and then they have upstands across the back of the worktop. It's by far the most popular way to do it these days. So I'll just stick the upstands back in before we go anywhere else. Where was that from? That one's from there. That one's from there. They should be the right size. So that's that finished. Got our corner unit in. We've got our drawer pack in. We centralised our oven. We got to the other end. We put our other fixed corner in, which was our diagonal corner. And then we found out that the centre didn't work out because there was no way of getting the wall units and the base units to align to the same centre. So we explored two ways of solving the problem: changing the size of this unit here in the scribe, or extending the depth of that one. And that's what we did in this case. We extended the depth a little bit. That allowed us to shove the design over ever so slightly and keep a sensible size scribe there. So hopefully that's give you a bit of an understanding. I know it's complicated, but it give you a bit of an understanding of just kind of how we work with corner units and the different types of corner unit, and how, which one is the right one to use. There is no answer to that. My own personal favourite is the blind corner unit. I say that because I've actually got both in my kitchen at home, and I like the blind corner the best. I'm a bit of a minimalist, so I don't have too much stuff anyway, so the fact that I'm losing some storage doesn't really worry me too much, but the accessibility is nice. I can just pull the shelf out. I've got like a kidney bean style pull out shelf, which you've probably seen if you've been looking around at kitchens. I think that's the best type. It certainly lasts the longest, and I've got something like that in there, so I can just access my stuff, and I'm okay with that. But if you wanted the absolute maximum storage, I have to say that the L-shape probably provides that if it's applicable to your design. So hopefully that's been of some use. Let's stick the rest of the plan in. So we've got a sink there. That's the upstand. That's the scribe. So next unit, that's actually a bin. So let's pop that in there. So that wasn't a dishwasher that I put in before. This green line that you can see on the front of the unit there, that tells me that there's something going on with that unit, either an appliance or bin or some kind of pull out. That's just some shelves that sort of go in somewhere like that. The next thing on the list was a panel, because this is a freestanding washing machine. That's an upstand, so let's bring our washing machine in. So you'll notice that that says 610. If it's an integrated washing machine, obviously it would have a 600 door on it, so it would be 600 itself. If it's a freestanding one, it'll be 610, because obviously you need to be able to slide it between that and the panel. You can just put a button on your wall there to support your worktop. I never do personally. I always use a scribe and a filler. It just finishes it neater. If you've got panel some end panel on the other side of the appliance, even if it's up against the wall, that's the upstand. We'll just pop that in there. That's actually some wall shelves that were just made out of some offcuts from the worktop. Sink, let's pop that in, and upstand finally goes in there. And that's it. That's our completed design. We've put everything back that was in there. So dog bed, fridge, freezer, drawer pack, oven, drawer pack, corner, sink base, 600. So that'll pretty much fit any bowl and a half sink in. Bin next to that, washing machine at the end, and some wall shelves. Let's have a look at it. Let's just set our camera to there so we can have a look at that size. And we're looking good. All the cornice in, the panels are all in place. Dog bed area there. Let's swing around and have a look to the other side. So this actual job was was a nice job to fit. The actual room preparation of it, which is always the kind of gnarliest bit of any project, is actually getting the room right. This room was pretty good anyway, so the floors stayed. Only the wall that's at the back of the extractor was plastered because there was electrical alterations on that, and there was glass splashbacks on it previously, which made a bit of a mess getting them off. So that wall was plastered, but the rest of it didn't need plastering. The floor stayed, so relatively easy room preparation on this one. Nice clients. I've worked for these. I've never fitted a kitchen for these guys before, but I have done other joinery work for them in the past, so I kind of knew them anyway. A quick look where the washer is. I'll just show you what I mean by the filler on the other side. So she stuck the washing machine, that's a bit too far back, but you can see the filler on the other side. It just finishes it off nicely. That, you know, if you're just kind of designing it without the filler in, let's just whip that out so you can see. And you're just using a rail or a batten or something, it just doesn't quite finish it off neatly. So, and you don't need to buy any extra material for that, because you can see how terrible that looks straight away. But the panel that's on the left hand side where my mouse is now, that panel can be cut in half and does both sides anyway, because this panel doesn't need to go all the way to the back. The plumbing and stuff's going through there anyway, so you only need one end panel to do both sides of it, so you might as well do it like that. Let's just stick that back in, and before I go, I'll show you what it looked like when it was finished. See if I can get those pictures up. So that's our design finished, and let's have a quick look through these. Okay, so that's the actual completed kitchen. As I say, they didn't have upstands in the end. The clients decided to tile it, and Craig from Marple Tiling actually tiled that. So you can see the dog bed area, and you can also see what we did with the worktop there. We've just reduced the panel that's on the left hand side and just put an angle on the worktop just to finish it off. The oak that's in the bottom below the dog bed is kind of all loose in there. It's not actually fixed down, so it's sat on like little rubber feet that you put on the bottom of the wood, and it just sits in place. So if you had any spillages or something, water, you know, got down there, then you can actually pick the whole thing out and take it out. And the panels that are actually on the back wall, that are lining the back wall, they're not down to the floor. They're actually just off the floor on and then screwed in place again. So if you had any spillages or anything like it, it doesn't get into the wood and soak up it. So that's how that was. I think the next one's close up on that area. Yeah, really nice. Dog's going to be happy in there. There's your oven, extractor, tile splashback obviously, rather than the glass one that we had on is, and there's your drawer packs. You can see what I mean by the two different sizes of drawer packs there. That's your window. You can see the windowsill on there. Obviously it didn't get tiled. We got a piece of we actually had an offcut of 30mm oak worktop, so we've actually put an oak worktop in the windowsill just to make it match, and you can see the offcuts that have been made into shelves on the walls there. You've got your oak worktop, that's your washing machine. You can see what I mean about the filler on the right hand side. Porcelain sink, which is an porcelain inset sink rather. That's an absolute must if you're having oak worktops. I know lots and lots of people want Belfast sinks in oak worktops, or any kind of undermount sink. And when I say that, I mean a sink that's actually underneath the worktop, so your draining board is effectively in your worktop. I've fitted a lot of oak worktops in my life, and I'll tell you now, there is no way of putting an undermount sink under an oak worktop or any kind of timber worktop, having a tap mounted directly into your worktop, which is what happens if you have a Belfast. That won't mean that your worktop doesn't get wrecked within 2 years, certainly, maybe even 12 months. So I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm saying you'll regret it. You'll definitely regret it. So if you're having oak worktops, for me it's got to be an inset sink. You can still have a porcelain one that look, you know, that this is a porcelain one. It looks quite traditional, but practicality wise, it is definitely the way forward. And it looks absolutely great. Looks absolutely great. It certainly looks better than a load of really black rotten wood round the back of a Belfast sink. So, you know, if you're having a Belfast, I'm afraid it's going to have to be quartz. Otherwise, yeah, it's really hard to keep that top looking good. Unless you're going to be on it all the time, drying it all the time, every time you use the tap. Because every time, when your hands are wet, when you're washing up and you go to use the tap, water drips off your hands and drops onto the worktop on a Belfast or an undermount sink. I know you can get integrated draining boards that kind of lip over the sink, but they don't work particularly well, and invariably you get bits of water going under them, so it's sat under there wet, and when you come to lift it off, it's all gone sort of mouldy and stuff underneath. So I'm not a fan of them either, I'm afraid. Anyway, enough about my negativity on Belfast and oak tops. I'm sure everybody can make their own mind up. You can see the bin there, just underneath the draining board with the cup handle. So you've got cups on the drawers and bin and yeah, and that's it. That's a wide picture and that's it. Okay, so hopefully I hope you enjoyed the video and we learned a little bit about, you know, how corner units work and just kind of how, you know, how the design kind of restrictions actually apply to when you're deciding what corners to have in any particular kitchen. You know, it's not necessarily just as simple as thinking, oh, I want blind corners, or I'd like L-shaped corners, because there will be other design restrictions around your kitchen. You know, whether it's a long run or a short run that you've got to fit a washing machine and a dishwasher in, and an L shape just isn't practical because it's putting too much pressure on the size of the run that you've got. But there are loads of restricting factors like that. So when you get with your designer, and as I always say, wherever you're buying your kitchen from, design your kitchen with your designer. Get in there. Don't be afraid to say something, you know, but use their expertise as well. Listen to what they're telling you, but explore every avenue, and then you're satisfied that the corner units that you're using is right for you, and you're doing it for the right reasons, rather than insist on something and then get to it at the end and think maybe they were right, and maybe that compromise was worth it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. The next one is, I don't know about what the next one is. I'm hoping to cover tall housings. I'm going to do a quick one soon on just cabinet sizes. So there are 3 different sizes of units, effectively, or 3 different sizes of tall housings, which change the height of your wall units, because we're getting asked all the time to build wall units all the way up to the ceiling, including top boxes and stuff like that. So I'm going to cover that one next, I think, because it's an important one for a couple of reasons. One, there's a real big push at the minute on using every single inch of space in your kitchen, and also, but there are quite big cost elements to this. You know, putting top boxes on and going tall, it does come with its problems, and it also affects the price quite a lot. So hopefully I'll cover that in the next one. But thanks for watching if you've hung in till the end, and I hope you learn it, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care, bye bye.